Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show, where we talk about all components of business and how to utilize them for exponential growth. My name is Athin Cassiotis. I'm a serial entrepreneur, international speaker, results strategist, business coach, mentor, and consultant. After over 14 years of being in business and running multiple companies, I felt called to start this show. I see many people struggling to start or grow a business, which is why I want to help entrepreneurs achieve success in business quicker, more effectively, and sustainably. Today, I have an awesome guest. He's a serial entrepreneur, international speaker, wealth coach, philanthropist, and property investor. From a position of being in a seriously large amount of debt, he has spectacularly built both his company and personal success, currently running 11 companies and brands. He's established a significant property portfolio and is the founder and CEO of Revington. Welcome, Chris Christofi, and thank you for being on my show.
Thanks for having me, Athins. Good to be here, mate.
Lovely. That's what we like to hear. So, for those people who don't know who you are, please introduce yourself by telling us your life story.
My life story. How long have we got?
Well, the shortened version.
I'm only kidding. I was born in Australia, lived in Cyprus for 7 years. Been in sales for a lot of my life. I started in real estate when I was 19 due to my father giving me a deposit. I fell in love with the process, so I just duplicated a very successful process, and by the age of 23 I found myself with 8 properties. Things went downhill from there. My son lost his hearing. The company I worked went through receivership, so basically from doing really well to really bad in the space of 6 months, 12 months max. Moved back into my parents. I had $348,000 worth of debt. Started a company called Revington 15 years ago. Now, as you mentioned, there's 11 companies and brands. We've helped over 3,000 Australians, sold billions of dollars worth of real estate, rebuilt my personal wealth, and have a team of over 50 now, and still loving what we're doing and making a big impact. So that's a very short version. I'm sure we're going to touch more of it during this show.
Love it. It's a really amazing story, and I love the struggles, and I think that's life, and then and how we bounce back from that. So it's really great to hear, Chris. And so obviously you're running 11 companies and brands, which is very impressive. So can you elaborate more on what they offer?
Of course. Now, we're a fully integrated financial services company. So when I started, I was just offering my services as a consultant, but bringing together all the companies. So a finance company, a property company, financial planners, and then they had their own accountants. So my goal was to fully integrate all those services. It took me about 10 years to get all the businesses under one roof. So right now, all of those services, we offer 5 key services. Property advice, so we show people how to build their wealth. We also show them how to money manage as well. So that's kind of in one gamut. Property management. So when they purchase the property, now they can purchase a property through a builder and developer. We're now getting into developing it ourselves. We will do the property management for that property. We do residential lending. It's become a very, very big company within itself. Within the last 4 months, even during COVID, we've lodged over 100 million in loans, which we've been very proud of, and is also an award-winning firm. Financial planning, which is CHC Planning Solution, again, an award-winning firm through TEL and through Affinia, so very proud of that. And accounting. So we offer a fully integrated service. A customer can use one of our services or all of our services. And as through as well, through speaking to us, we help our clients through the whole journey, not just getting into the property market, but also making sure they maximize their tax efficiencies. They're buying the right property, they're not over leveraging. When I first got into the market, my biggest issue at 24, when I lost my job and my income, I was over leveraged. So I was positioned to make a lot of money if everything went well. Now, during certain circumstances, i.e. company going into receivership, but more importantly, when my son became deaf and lost his hearing, those things really impacted me to my core. So that took me from basically flying high to back in my mother's house with $348,000 worth of debt. So when people say they launched their business with no money, I wish I had no money when I started my business. I started with $348,000 worth of debt. But the way I was able to rebuild was through good relationships. People, through having integrity and being able to go visit people and ask them to, for help to get back on my feet. A lot of people view asking for help as a weakness. I view that as a strength. It's relational. It's having good relationships. But the way I was able to scale my business in the midst of a GFC in 2008 was actually got an investor, which, how would I get an investor? He vetted me, knew who I was. So having relational capital is very, very important. And the only way you can have that is through good relationships and having integrity in what you do. So I was able to rebuild my business from scratch. And now looking at, we have multiple offices and we have an amazing teams across all platforms. We've won multiple awards, and it's a humbling thing to do, and still love doing that every single day. So the answer to your question, how do you run these companies? I can't do it by myself. I have an amazing team of people. I love coming to work and seeing them. I couldn't do this without them. Now, through COVID, people are a bit conservative with their approach. I've just purchased a finance book today. I'm looking at accountancy practice, another financing book, and I've just put on 6 new staff members. So I'm actually stepping on it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love, that your company provides the whole range of solutions, right? Because you can sort of go to someone and, you have multiple advisors, and sometimes there can be a bit of a disconnect, in the strategies and things like that. So by you providing that really helps people to really go the whole process. So that's really awesome. And yeah, I completely agree with you on relationships, relational capital. It's, that's everything these days. That can be the main difference between a yes and a no. And that could be the difference with you, building your wealth or that big deal that can take you to the next level. So that's really awesome. So thanks for that, Chris. And so, many people say that property is one of the safest investments. So what are your thoughts on, investing in property for wealth creation?
Well, without being biased, there's nothing safer than bricks and mortar. And I'm going to give you 2 things to think about. Banks, what would you say banks do traditionally?
Well, they lend you money.
Correct, which is the answer most people will give. I say banks assess risk. No one can assess risk better than a bank can. So if a bank is willing to give you 95% against a residential piece of real estate, it shows it's safe. Now, when we look at banks, and I said to you before, nothing's safer than bricks and mortar. A lot of people, a lot of coaches, a lot of people will preach something, but do they live and breathe it? I've been in real estate for 21 years. I have a majority of my wealth in real estate, and I've advised over 3,000 clients to buy and purchase real estate. So it's not something that I'm just saying, hey, real estate's great, it's real estate's safe. It's something I believe to my core. And I've got my wealth in real estate. So I think that's always the judge of someone that's giving advice. I always ask them, do you do that advice? Do you follow it? Now, for me, when I got back into the industry when I was 25, my first goal was to pay off my debt, help clients get into a position of wealth. And by helping many clients, I could build my wealth. So I purchased multiple properties over the years, but it's because I had a formula on what I needed to follow. And I also had my learnings from when I was 24. By over leveraging, by expecting the markets. And as you know, I recently wrote a book, which I was very proud of. It was an Amazon bestseller as well, which is Your Path to Wealth Brick by Brick, which we could maybe touch on later. That shows exactly what I've done and how I've done it. So what do I say to people to get in real estate? 48% of the world's wealth belongs in real estate. 73 out of 100 million in this country do it through real estate. No one can assess banks, the risk better than a banks can. Hey, they'll give you 95% against a piece of real estate. So that shows you how safe it is, especially in troubled times or it's like a pandemic, really uncertain times, I should say. People will go towards something they can see, touch and feel, bricks and mortar. I'm not saying shares aren't good. I also own shares, and other forms of investments are not good. But if you want long-term security, you cannot go past real estate.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for really elaborating on that. And I think you're right that you need a diverse portfolio, hedging, diversifying everything, and have a lot of different elements. Like, obviously business is an investment in itself, of having, wealth in that, and you can have that, but that has different variances depending on industries and things and times what can happen. But as you said, I think property is the one that's going to stay around for a while. And as long as you're smart, you've got the right strategies, to really get that capital growth and things that you want in property, then, you can really set yourself up for success. So that's awesome. Thanks for explaining that. And I guess, what key steps should people take when they want to buy an investment property?
Very, very important, do your due diligence. Now, you've heard the term hundreds of times, location, 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 haven't you?
Definitely.
I've coined a new term, said affordability, due to my learnings when I was younger. You will always make money in real estate. And it's a bold statement, but I'll say it again. You will always make money in real estate if you keep it the right amount of time. Why won't you keep it the right amount of time? Lost my job, rates went up, I don't have a tenant, the list goes on. If you can afford to keep real estate for the right amount of time, you're always going to make money, providing you purchase smart. Why won't you purchase smart? You haven't done your due diligence and you've over leveraged. Now, I've seen the over leveraging part, as I mentioned to you before, but doing your due diligence is paramount. Not what I tell you, hey, this is a great area to go buy there. We have a Reventon formula which we follow before I list the property. My second stage, which is equally as important, I do independent research on that location. So I'm not in love with the location until it ticks all my boxes. Independent research. We use the best possible data research methods out there. And the third method, which is probably one of the most important, would I physically invest in that area? Would I put my family in that area? If it says tick to all three, we advise our clients, or I purchase in that area. So a lot of the areas that we're currently selling with, I personally own multiple dwellings in that area. And I also buy from the same builders and developers. So I'm not saying buy that area, buy that builder, but it's not good enough for me. It's good enough for me to invest, it's good enough for me to advise, which is what I say to my clients. And when you ask, if we're going back to that question, why real estate's good, if you look at areas to invest and you speak to anybody, they'll usually give you one of three answers. Where do you put your money? The most lucrative place to put your money and the best place to grow is your business, by far. Nothing will outgrow the business returns. Business is number one. It's not for everybody though. The second area, which you're a big fan of, Athin, I know, and so am I, is coaching. Spending yourself. I spend hundreds of thousands of dollars every year in growing my knowledge, in growing my ability. And also my clients deserve that because they entrust me. The third area where I put my money is investments and stocks. Investments are mainly real estate. So if you speak to most successful people, they'll have a sequence of where they invest their money. The first two, well, the first one is not for everyone, it's business. The second one, the best returns in yourself, understanding things. So when I said due diligence, when it comes to real estate, that would be the second key to this part we're talking. And the third one, find a location and buy it. The smallest action is more powerful than the greatest plan. So it doesn't matter if you've got all the knowledge in the world and all the research, unless you act, you won't make money. So have a good team of people around you that will help you act.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think you're right. You've got the runs on the board, you do it. And I love that, you actually invest in those areas as well. You're not just someone that says, just, buy there and do that. That's really awesome. And that gives a lot of confidence to, someone like me or anyone else out there that wants to invest with you. And and I think having that diverse thing, and like you said, with coaching and mentoring, what goes on in our mindset and the skills that we need to learn, whether it's in business or investing or other things, just take us to the next level. And it's a constant thing. It's a constant growth, right? Over time, because you just keep leveling up and you keep, uncovering things that hold you back. And then, working with, and then you sort of put that in conjunction with relationships that you meet along the way, right? And that's how opportunities happen, because you have the skills, you have the knowledge, you have the mindset, you get connected with people, and it's like, okay, how can everyone benefit and we take the most of our opportunities? So that's, really awesome. So rent vesting's a term that's being spoken about more often these days. And so please explain to everyone what it is and the benefits it provides.
Rent vesting, it's funny. I've been rent vesting when I was 19 years old, actually, because my first property I bought was an investment property. So the term rent vesting means you're renting someone else's dwelling, but you're an investor. Rent vesting or rent vestor, they call it as well. So if you're an owner and you're renting your own properties, you're a rent investor and you're investing. So they both work. So basically, the advantage of doing that is a lot of people are choosing to live in certain areas that they cannot afford. I want to go into the city because my work's there. I want to go to the city because my lifestyle's there. But they can't afford $800,000 on a dwelling. Or in my case, where I lived was a great area. I lived in Taylor's Lake, so I wanted to live there, but it wasn't the best area to invest. So I want to live where I want, but invest where I should. Term investing. And also, when you got your capital investments in Australian real estate we're specifically talking about, it's 100% tax efficient debt as opposed to not tax efficient debt. The term you always hear, rent money is dead money. Correct. Not if you're investing. If your money is 100% leveraged in the right areas, it's very smart and prudent to invest. So I'm currently now, I own multiple properties personally. I'm still renting an apartment, which is 3 minutes from my office. 2.4Ks for my kids' schools, 1.5Ks for my son's school. Everything's within a 2.5K radius, but it's an apartment. I don't want to tie up my money in an apartment, especially one of that size. I do own apartments. I'm not saying they're not good investments. I do think house and land do grow more, just to preface what I was saying. But I have a house, which I bought, a holiday house, which I go see, but it's a dwelling. So rent investing basically means you're renting and you're owning other properties. It's becoming very, very common with millennials that are saving up their money. And it's becoming a very common strategy for people that can't afford to rent can't afford to buy where they want, but they rent where the capital growth is. But it's also coming popular with people that just think it's a smarter decision. And if you're asking me, is it better to rent invest and have 100% tax efficient money? The answer is undeniably yes. Am I saying it's the right decision for people? Maybe not. You might want to have an emotional attachment to the house you're living. I understand and get that. But financially, you'll be better off rent investing. That's with everybody.
Yeah, no, that's really awesome. Thanks for explaining that. And I think, the biggest thing with that as well is the banks, right? Because you go to the bank and you say you want to get a loan for an investment property, and there's only, whether or not there's a small difference that you have to add on top of that, using your wage or whatever your income is, there's a lot higher chance that the bank's going to give you the money as well. Whereas if you were going to just buy, a property for yourself, then you have to, fill the whole loan yourself, whether that's interest or both interest and principal.
That's a very good point that I didn't even bring up, because if you own an investment property, I use this when I do my presentation when it comes to real estate. When you own a home and you pay a mortgage, who pays that mortgage off?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
100% of it, that correct?
Yeah.
But when you own an investment property, you only pay about 15% of it. And people go, why? Because you have a rental income plus tax efficiencies, which means the pie, you're only paying there's three incomes. One's a tax saving. You could say that's an income. Two's rental income. And third, you might pay 10% of it. And with rates being at such an all-time low now, the rent and the tax savings are sometimes covering the loan, and it's positively geared. So I'm showing clients to get into the market and they're making $10 a week extra, and they go, but how? Because the rents are so high, the rates are so low. So you're bringing a great example, and it is easy from a bank, because some banks use 80% of your rental income. So if a property rents for $20,000 a year, they'll use $16,000 to go towards your serviceability, which means you can service more debt, which means you can buy certain properties. So having 4 properties with all rental incomes adds to your serviceability, which is your debt to service ratio, how much you can service. How much debt do you have and how much you can service? So that's a very, very good point as well. When you buy your own home, there's no income attached to that. So the bank will view that slightly different.
Yeah, definitely. No, thanks for clarifying that more. It's really important for people to understand that. And I guess, what advice would you give to people who want to buy their first investment property?
Again, I touched on this prior to that. Information's important. If you're going to take one thing from this presentation, this podcast that we're doing, do not over leverage. Buy something you can afford. The first property you buy, whether that be your own or investment, is the most important. People go, why do you say that? It's the stepping stone to your next property, your next property. If I put a stepping stone here and the other one's so far apart, you can't get to it. It might take you 5-6 years to get to the next property. But if you put the stepping stones close to each other, it makes the transition quicker to your second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Don't over leverage, because you've got to remember one thing. When you buy an investment property, let's say your debt's 300 and it's growing, you're now achieving capital growth, correct?
Yep.
In uncertain markets, it might not grow as quick. I want you to get capital growth while you're paying it off. So it's a two-tone effect. So you're building equity and equity. It's much faster, it's much more affordable. And if something happens, i.e., you lose your job, rates go up, there's no tenant, you've got more room to move. And you're not going to put pressure on your lifestyle. Another popular reason rent investing is good is you're not going to overcapitalize. And I've mentioned this 3-4 times already. It's happened to me when I was younger, and I write all about that in my book. Don't overcapitalize, get the right advice. So important. What's the right advice? Someone that's done deal after deal after deal after deal in today's market, with today's economy, with today's compliance, with today's laws, with today's lending. Now, one of the big advantages Reventon has, I know people that talk about real estate that were doing it 10, 20 years ago. Your information is now obsolete. It's irrelevant to me. I want people that are doing deals in today's market that understand today's compliance. That's paramount.
Definitely, especially with APRA now, and the different things that they're doing, and there are different lenders, obviously second tiers and stuff that allow more, but it's good that you can get bigger loans now, like you can get 95%, and obviously you can get lenders mortgage insurance and things like that. So it allows you to only have a very small deposit to allow to get into the market and do that. So it's and like you said, that serviceability, I think, is the big thing now as well, which is that those laws about how they, analyze that and what you can actually invest later as well.
Don't use it as a trap, though. One point I want to make: don't use what a bank will give you as a trap. And I'll give you an example. If you walk into a bank and they say to you, "Hey, Athin, you got a great job, good income, you got a couple of properties, you can borrow 800,000." That doesn't mean you can afford 800,000. Serviceability, what they'll give you, and what I made up a word called comfortability. What are you comfortable with? That's what you need to borrow. And if you can borrow 600, borrow 500. But you know what happens when you go look at a house? You get emotionally attached. Hey, 600. Can we borrow it? I don't know. 700. Can we do it? Now you're over leveraging because you're becoming emotional. And it's so easy to do. Whatever your budget is, take 10% off that. If your mortgage is 1,000, try to put 1,200 a month onto it. It's going to build that thing much faster. And what's a duplicatable process? Something that's safe and affordable. Now, I've built 8 properties from 19 to 24. Pretty good. I lost them all because I over leveraged. Now, I manage with the same resources to buy over 15 in 2 years. And I've been buying properties for multiple years now because I know the formula and I know what to buy. Very, very important. And that's what we teach people. And that's what's very documented in my book, step by step.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Thanks for confirming that. Really important for everyone to understand. So I guess let's mix it up a little bit now. So you're also a wealth coach, which, you mentioned. And so what areas of wealth do you focus on and how do you help people in that regard?
Good question. Conscious spending, understanding what you're borrowing. So when you buy a piece of real estate, you want capital growth, but I want you to also know how much you're spending and how you can save. So if you look at books like Richest Man in Babylon, if you look at books like Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad, they talk about a thing called pay yourself first. So if you understand how to save money, and that has a compound effect, compound is growth upon growth. And as Albert Einstein said, the 8th wonder of the world is understanding compounding. The banks understand it. Those who understand it earn it. Those who don't pay it. So I teach people conscious spending. I teach people to not over leverage and how to build a duplicatable process to really excel their wealth. So my wife teaches a lot of other things as well, more conscious stuff, health and mindset stuff, which she teaches me as well on that. But for me personally, what does wealth mean? Conscious spending. Building a property portfolio specifically, having options to do what you want, when you want, with who you want. So me specifically, I'm all down the numbers and the wealth creation side. Yeah. And that all begins with my mindset though too, yeah? Everything's attained. The first step of any process in my mind's mindset. Do you have the mindset to create what you're after? Everyone will say, what do you want to do when you retire? I had a question this asked when I was 19. I want to have 10 houses when I'm 30 and a Lambo. How are you going to do that, Chris? Got no idea. Because the first thing you need is a plan. Let's sit down and map it out. Now, funny enough, I was 24 and I had 8 properties. I was on my way to achieving that. But why? I had a plan. I had to build the right mindset to acquire the wealth, to acquire the conscious spending, or to understand conscious spending. So mindset's the most important before you do anything, whether that be physical, whether that be financial.
Yeah, that I completely agree with you. And mindset is so important, like you said, whether it's investing, whether it's business, whether it's just in life. And then, I think at the same time, it's also that knowledge that you're saying, like, knowing your numbers and knowing how to look at things, because you can have the best advisors there, but at the same time, you want to be able to do your own, due diligence. You want to understand the process, right? So that you can really focus on it and then have that.
Buy into it too.
Sorry?
Buy into the process when you understand it.
That's right.
And if you don't know your numbers either, like conscious spending, the first word is conscious. Understand what it is. So knowing your numbers is so important if you're going to pay yourself first. No one's going to know your numbers like you. And I say to my clients, no one cares about your finance more than you do. I care about my finance. My actions show that I care about my finance. People who say they care about their finance, are your actions aligned with what you're actually saying? So important. People say, yeah, I want to pay off my mortgage in 15 years. My next question is, what have you done about it? Nothing. Well, your actions aren't aligned with what you're saying. So I make sure that people understand what they're saying consciously so we can put them in that position. And, conscious spending is so important. We're all guilty of it because if you're on $100,000 a year, and I say this to my team, I say this to my clients. If I said to you, hey, tomorrow, Athin, you're on 150, do you know the first thing people do when they go from 100 to 150? They expand their lifestyle accordingly. But if you do that one thing by pay yourself first and you're putting 5, 10 or 15% of that away, you're automatically saving that money, automatically compounding that money, you're going to become wealthy. It's the formula. 2 + 2 is 4. It's the same with conscious spending, compounding and investing. You can argue with logic and you can argue with theory sometimes. You can never argue with maths. It's a mathematical formula to become wealthy. You just need to have the discipline behind you. That's it.
Yeah, no, that's really awesome, having that budget and everything like that. And like what I hear, a lot of people saying is like, pay yourself enough that you need to pay yourself, right? Like, especially if you have a business, don't sort of just take heaps of money out of it. Or when you do have the money, is understand what your spending is and like allocate a little bit for, going out or things like that, but have your little areas. And then that way, whatever else comes in, whether that's, through wages, through other investments or things, you can then, allocate it and use it to grow it. So that's, really awesome. And you touched on it before, you have a lovely wife and 4 children as well. So how do you run your empire and ensure that you spend ample time with your family?
Well, look, I can't say that I'm great in all areas because I'm far from that. If I didn't have an amazing wife and team, I definitely couldn't do what I do. The hours that I put in and dedication to work, I have full buy-in from my wife, my kids, and my team. If I didn't have full buy-in, I couldn't do it. So we mentioned the term self-made. I'm not self-made. I've got a team of people behind me. Did anyone give me anything? No. I worked and earned it from the scratch, lost it, got it back, and some. But I only did that due to having an amazing team behind. My wife's currently in my office at the moment now. She's in the meeting room next door, doing a lot of things, taking care of a deal that we're doing with finance. We purchased a finance book I mentioned. Billy's doing his due diligence on that as we speak. So she does a lot here, but more importantly, keeping my mental state and the kids' mental state. It's not 99% Billy, it's 100% Billy. I don't do that, my wife does. Now, do I contribute and help? Yes. Could I do a lot better in those areas? 100%. It's definitely something I'm very work skewed. So people say work-life balance. I don't know what the word balance means. But if I didn't have a supportive team, I couldn't do it. But I'm very skewed towards work, something that I'm consciously working on. But I love what I do. So I'm in a bit of a pickle because I'm obsessed with what I do. I love being at home. I love the kids and my wife, but I always kind of end up coming back a bit here. So yeah, I can't comment much on work-life balance because I think it's a myth. If you want to build something exceptionally and great, you need to put in the hours. I know a lot of successful people. I don't know one that hasn't sacrificed so much and put in time. Not one. So I'm not an exception. I fall in that category as well.
Yeah, they're really awesome points. And I see a lot of similarities, and I don't have children or anything yet, but I'm definitely more work focused. But I think having that buy-in from your partner, is so important. So that, and, you have those sort of roles, in your life. So, you have more of the focus on the business side and growing the wealth and, providing and everything. Whereas, yeah, right. Whereas your wife takes more of the role, with the kids and things like that, but you still have that thing. And a term that I really like is work-life blend, I've heard, instead of balance. Yeah,
it's more accurate, but also too, just to preface, yes, I'm a lot more work heavy. She's a lot more home heavy, but she has a big factor towards work as well. Before we've got 4 kids. Before we had our 3 daughters, Billy was here every day, all day, and she ran a very successful finance company for Reventon for us. So although she had to take a bit of a sabbatical from being full-time because we've got a 17-year-old boy who lives with us, my son, and 3 daughters, 7, 4, and 3. And now she's got a homeschool again. So Yeah, she's come back to work. I think she's going to have to take another 6 weeks. It's going to be difficult for her, but yeah, she says it's a lot easier to be at work than with the 3 kids. I've done it. I've tried one day and I go, she's 100% true.
That's it. Definitely. It's,
Those ages and homeschooling. Oh my God.
What's that like? I think you go.
I've tried for half an hour. I told her I'll help you. After half an hour to an hour, I go, babe, I've got to go to work. I've just got to call it. I've got to go. I got the hell out of there quickly. I couldn't do it. And it's also the ages, 3 kids, 7, 4, and 3. So my bottom daughter's pulling one leg. The other one's trying to learn. She's got ADD like me. And the other one's on the other computer. Look, to all the mothers and fathers that are homeschooling, hat off to you. I don't know how you do it. It's difficult. Running the 11, 12 businesses that we're doing now, it's a walk in the park compared to that. I can assure you of that.
Yeah, that's it's very interesting, and I think that's a discussion I'm having with my partner when we have kids down the line, because I think the school systems, unfortunately, they sort of get rid of the creativity, and that the way of the thinking of kids these days. So it there's that aspect of they're going to go there and they're going to liaise with kids and stuff, but then kids can lose a lot of their abilities that they have, that natural ability of things that they do. So it's definitely appealing, to be able to instruct the kids and do it from home. So it's how to find the best way of doing that works within.
There's a great TED talk on that, with kids losing their creativity going to school. It's an amazing TED talk because kids have an imagination like no other. And schools teach you how to succeed. I was never a good student. Life's not about succeeding. Life's about failing and learning from the failures and going forward. I was always okay with failing because I was so common to it. But one thing I knew, if I fail once, I'm coming back again and I'll get better and better until I succeed. If you have that drive, I won't stop. I'm relentless. So when it comes to, when you've got perfect students, they're taught to be perfect, to not make mistakes. So I think the system's very flawed in that sense that you shouldn't be promoting 100% to 100%. You should be, when someone makes a mistake, how do you learn from it? How do you become better? 100%, you can't get better than 100%. But you're promoting. So there's a lot of areas which why I think a lot of successful entrepreneurs weren't good at school, didn't pay attention at school, or didn't have the best marks. But, they learn different things. I was never one to enjoy school or be good at school or even read. But now that I love school, I read a lot. I do a lot of personal development. It's a different sort of education. It's a different sort of learning. You've got people and I use my wife as an example. She's extremely, extremely intelligent. She can read a book and understand it. Me, it takes me 2-3 times. And she was a good student. I know other people that were good students, but were hardworking good students, that have to see things multiple times. She's just naturally gifted, which is even better when it comes to learning. I never had that ability. And I think being a good student, it's good to learn, but you've also got to focus on what you're learning. Is that you're learning a curriculum about economics which is outdated? Are you learning about business? Are you learning about money? Are you learning about life? Are you learning how to fail? That's what I want to teach my kids. That's what we are teaching our kids, because I think they're important life skills.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. And, the first 6 or 7 years of, a kid's life is where a lot of their beliefs happen in that. So by you imprinting a lot of those things really, sets them up for success. And I was similar to you where, in some ways, well, at the start, both my parents were teachers, right? So I was sort of, put down this thing to read and force me to do things. So I think I was decent at school younger, but as I got, into high school, then I couldn't do it. I was leaving, whole semester assignments to the last night and still doing decent in it, but I didn't like it. And I ended up leaving year 12 and, not finishing school. And my parents tried to get me into uni. I didn't like that and got a job, right? And then I got a job and I learned, when I was in there, and I was like, okay. And then I started doing some amazing things, while I was there and moving up quickly and doing stuff. And then so I grew up in Adelaide, and then, my company at the time, Veolia, then the head office in Sydney saw what I was doing. They wanted me to move to Sydney. So I went and moved to the national office. And that was about 8 or so years ago now. And then really see it from a different perspective, from a national level, working, 10 meters away from the managing director, of the whole country, and seeing, and that was really another step up. And then I thought to myself, I really want to understand more about business. And I never really liked studying, but then I thought to myself, I want to learn more. So then I thought, okay, can I get into do it like, a Bachelor of Business or something? And then I realized I could get and do an MBA. And, I literally just finished my MBA. I'm going to get my results on Monday to just confirm it.
Let me know how you go, huh?
Yeah, thank you. I will. And, that was tough for someone that doesn't like studying and do it and being in that system. But the thing that drove me was that I knew it was for business and this is going to help me a lot down the line. Right. So when you've got that type of drive and you do it, you go through the pain, right? You have that, you got your why.
Passion. It's a difference.
Yeah.
It's a big difference. You mentioned something I use all the time and I want to mention it. I talk about people's retirement as school. And you said you got an example of an assignment. Now I say this, 95% of Australians are going to retire under what they need in retirement. Only a small percentage will retire wealthy or comfortable. Now, here's the funny story. When you're at school, you'll get an assignment in January, during December, or of that nature. 95% of the class will open that assignment when?
Just before it needs to be done.
Which is what you just said, yeah?
Yeah.
That's what 95% of Australians do towards their retirement. The ones that plan for their retirement starting January, February, March, by the time they come back, I started planning for my retirement when I was 19 years of age. Now, although I was the shooter, the December 12th assignment shoe, I'm going to open it December the 10th. Although I was that student, when it came to retirement, I started planning when I was 19. I'm 40 now. And I achieved my retirement not once, but twice. But because I started planning from the start. Now, everyone can relate to the example that you gave because most people I speak to and most clients I speak to will give the same example. But when it comes to retirement, I say to them, if you want to retire financially secure, let's open our assignment in January. Let's start when they've given it to us. No, I've got 30 years. I've got plenty of time. Now's the time to start. So when you have the same mindset, and it's funny I use that parallel, and you use that, and it prompted me because I used to present to my clients, I used to use an example that people can relate to, and that was the example, funny enough. And you told me, and I find it extremely amusing.
There you go. We're in tune and think similarly, Chris. And that's I love that point that, for something like that, you can do it last minute, but for wealth creation, and that doesn't work like that because of the way how things compound and over time to be able to do 100%. It. So that's really awesome. And I like that you use that analogy because people can do it. So, you might have mentioned that, but just in case there's something else is, what was your biggest failure and how did you overcome it?
I had a lot of them. I use a little formula. The harder things get, the better I become. I really love challenges. So this pandemic, I'd like to start by saying I think is very serious and I hope it doesn't hurt too many people financially and mentally. I know it does and I know it will. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm so excited about the prospect of something being super difficult because I know I'm going to get so much better. And there's an old saying, if you lay down with dogs, you get fleas. If you hang around with champions, you become one. I mentioned when it comes to contract spending, it's all about mindset. My mindset is I'm either going to succeed or die. So my biggest failure when I lost everything and moved into my mother's house, I thought, I have a saying, I don't even know if I mentioned this to anyone, but in the morning, when something's really tough, I always say to myself, watch me or let's go. So every morning when I step off super early and I put my foot in the ground, I always say, let's go or watch me. Or if the challenge is unsurmountable and they go, he's going to fail, I want a challenge that you go, he's not going to pass that. He's not going to be able to do that. That's when I show up. So when the government released this second stage of lockdown, I called my managers in the room and I said, now I want to see what you're made of. I want to see what I'm made of. Now's the exciting time. Now let's use time to our advantage. This is a time to sit and watch TV all day. This is a time to innovate. This is a time to learn. This is the time to grow. So my biggest challenge is when my son lost his hearing. I lost everything. I had to move back in with my mum and I was mentally in a bad state. Financially, it's just money. Money comes and goes and money is a transfer of energy. Good energy around and it all's a circle. Good relationships, it's all a circle. Everything you do is a circle. It always comes back to you is what I believe and what I say to my kids. So how did I deal with it? I put my best foot forward And I made sure that I was going to give 120% of my efforts and my time. So the harder it is, the more excited I am now. I guess I'm not saying that everyone's the same, and I always use this example. Is there anything we can do right now that's going to change COVID?
No. But
I don't worry about things I can't control.
Yeah.
I worry about things I can control. So I'm going to put all my energy on the solution, not the problem. What have I learned and what would I do differently? All my energy. I'm not focused on the past. I'm not focused on what's behind me. I can't change that. But I'm smarter than I was 20 years ago. For me, COVID, I prepared for this when I was 24. I know what to do. And I don't mean by a pandemic. I mean by having a challenge. I've lost it all before. I didn't come back. I came back 10 times stronger. So for me, I've been preparing for this moment for a very, very long time. I was preparing for my retirement for a very, very long time. So what was the thing that I did? I showed up every day. I made no disillusion. I wasn't, disillusioned. It's going to be easy. It's all high fives and roses. No, I was very clear with what was ahead of me. It's going to be a fight. And I spent a lot of time with my coach, and I was thinking about a strategic plan on how to navigate out of this, but not to survive. I've got no interest in surviving. Surviving's boring. Thriving. I want to thrive. I want to look at my business. I was sitting here and I got up and I go, my business has to pivot. I'm going to start buying finance firms. Today, as I told you, Billy's doing due diligence to buy a book. It's not a big one. It's about 40 million or something of loans. There's another one I'm looking at that's probably about $500 million. And it's like Buffett said, be fearful when people are greedy, be greedy when people are fearful. And I don't like the term greedy, but I like the term that do the opposite. And if whatever you're going to do, make sure you have data, the right data to suggest why I'm not putting staff on, why am I putting 6 staff on strategically and very strategic to why I want growth. So they're saying to me, Chris, what are you focusing on now? I said, I want growth. Now, Mark Boris talks a lot about rising tide, and you should attack it when the tide's rising, or you should play defensively. And I agree with that strategy. But for me, I like attacking and going forward. If I'm going to go down, I want to go down swinging. If I go down and I haven't tried, that'll mentally kill me. You might as well just put a bullet in me, because if I haven't tried something and I've gone the other way, I couldn't live with it.
Yeah, no, I love that. And like you said, it all comes down to that mindset. And, a lot of people don't realize it, but you need that personal development. And whether that's going to like some sort of seminar or boot camp to begin with, but once you start to realize those changes, then you start to go, okay, I can actually do this, and a little bit comes down to, as people say, the 5 people you spend the most time with, because you can have a really good mindset. But if you're hanging around people that are negative and they say you can't do things and things like that, then that's going to severely detriment, where you want to go. So you got to make sure that you've got people that are going to support you, your mindset and what you want to do in life, or you literally don't care about what these people think and just say, I don't care what you think. This is what I'm doing. I've got my focus. I know my direction.
Energy forward. Show me your 5 closest friends. I'll show you who you are. Show me your 5 closest people's net worth. I'll tell you what you're worth. For me, whether I played snooker early on, I enjoyed a very brief, I was fighting earlier on. I played table tennis. My friends were the best in the business, Australian world champions. Now, my mentors in business are successful people that are out there doing it with proven track records. So, and it's who you hang around with. It's what you put in your mind. There was a term one of my bosses told me, GICO, garbage in, garbage out. I put good things in my mind, good things in my mindset. Who you hang around with is who you become. It's that simple. So for me, I don't hang around with people that can't do things that are negative. Oh, this is really tough. I say, okay, and I move on to the tougher it is, the more you're going to grow. So when under extreme pressure is when you grow as a business, when you grow, when you're training, when you put your muscle under extreme pressure, that's when you grow. It's the same principle. So if you're going to give me the worst scenario and the hardest pressure, I'm so excited because I know I'm going to grow. So every challenge that we go through, I'm a different Chris Christofi. I'm going to come as a more smarter, more aggressive, more strategic. And that's exciting.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome, Chris. So you've built a huge empire. So what is next for you now?
Look, as I said in my 15-year video, we're just getting started. I have no aspirations of slowing down. I want to go faster and smarter now. So we haven't scratched the surface yet of what we want to do. We've helped 3,000 clients. I want to help 50,000 clients. I want to develop. I want to speak. I just want to have more of an impact. I want to eradicate homelessness in Australia. The goals are pretty lavish. They're pretty big, but they get me out of bed. So I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. One thing I've never focused on, it's never about money. I don't care about money. I've always had money because I'm a hard worker. So money will always follow people that hang around the right people and work hard. Money is what it is, and I'm fortunate enough to be surrounded by great things and great people. I've had money, I've lost it, and I've got money. I'm cool either way because I'll get out of bed and do what's required every day. So what's next? There's a lot of big goals. Help a lot more people.
Yeah, I love that. Big goals, and that's what really drives us to keep going. So yeah, awesome. So we touched on it earlier, but you've got an awesome book which you just released called, Your Path to Wealth, Brick by Brick, which is a bestseller on Amazon. So yeah, there it is. Lovely. And I do have it. It is amazing. So please tell everyone, what the book includes and sort of what they'll get out of it.
Includes a lot of things, even a photo of me at the back. How's that?
Lovely.
Now, what does it include? It includes a blueprint. How done 3,000 deals, the Reventon formula, talks about conscious spending. At the end of each chapter, key takeaways. It's not a book that you read and set down. How to get the right team of people behind you. Now, buying a property, you need a good broker. You need a good insurance person. You need to have a good accountant, a good financial planner. Buying an asset's one thing. Protecting the assets another. So you need a good team of people. We mentioned before there's no such thing as self-made. Having the right team of people. Now, what's the right team of people? Very simple. Today's market, how many deals are you doing and are you successful? If you don't tick all those 3 boxes, you're wasting your time. You might go to the wrong person. It can step you more backwards. So the right team of the right professionals. This book will cover everything from A to Z. Show you how we've done what we've done with all of our clients. And the best part about this book, which I like, and why I wrote it when I was 38, 100% of the proceeds go towards charity. I didn't write this book to make money. I wrote this book to help more people. I can help certain people, but getting my message out there and showing people how to do it will help a lot more. And if it generates money, which it already has, 100% of it I'm going to donate because, as I said, I don't do what I do for money. I do it because I want to have an impact.
Yeah, I love that. And it's really great that you've put, a lot of value in there for people that they can really follow and things like that to really set them up for success. So that's awesome. And you touched on, your charity, and that's called Brick by Brick. And, it's set up with St. Vincent de Paul, and, you're going to help, build a home for people in need. So can you, tell everyone sort of, why you created and how you plan to help people?
Well, look, every year I do a mini CEO sleep out. I'm an ambassador to the cause, which I was very grateful and proud that I got offered after my second year to become an ambassador. So I just completed my 3rd year. I was always one of the highest fundraisers that did that, and I'm super passionate about the cause. I just completed this year's mini CEO sleep out, which was the first one I did with my wife, which I loved. It was a virtual sleep out, which they required. It was 1,541, I think, CEOs that did do this around the country. They could sleep in their car, their backyard, or their couch, because that's what a lot of people that experience homelessness are sleeping. I said to Billy, I want to go the extra mile. Everything I do, I have to do to the extreme. So I slept 2 nights on the streets of Melbourne. Billy slept the first night. I had a goal to raise 80,000. People go, Chris, you're crazy. It's in the middle of a pandemic. It's a lot of money. We're going to do it. So year 1, we hit 40. That was my goal. Year 2, we hit 60. That was my goal. Year 3 was 80. We just closed our campaign off at $82,177. I never had any doubt we were going to hit it. I worked extremely hard. I was on Channel 10, Sky News with my wife, podcast, Nels Cosmos. We donated 75 cents to every dollar. So we donated 35,000. And we came second in Victoria with about 294 CEOs. And 6th in Australia at 1,541 CEOs in the top 0.4% of fundraisers. So for me, I was so happy because A, we raised a lot of money, but B, we got our awareness out there. Now this is 2-3 months of the campaign. I said, I want to do something more than that. So about a year ago, I was at Gumtree with Billy doing our shopping. Here's another part where I told you I never switch off. I go, you know what? I want to do more than the Vinnies. I want to build a house and donate it. So I call up Jen, who's one of the main people with Vinnies. I go, Jen, I want to build a house and donate it to Vinnie St. Paul's. I want to call it brick by brick. She goes, yeah, okay. So we started getting legal people drafted up an agreement, hence why my book's called Brick by Brick as well. She goes, how are you going to pay off the house, Chris? It's about $500,000 we're looking. I'm looking at the block lot now. So well, all my Vinnie St. Paul's CEOs can go there. Every sale that I generate from my business, I want to donate a further $500. All my book proceeds will go towards that. And if I haven't raised $500,000 in 2 years, I'll sign a personal check and pay it out for you. She goes, okay. So I've underwritten the whole deal. So basically, in 2 years, we're looking for the block now. We're going to find the house, build it, and donate it. Now, all the capital gains as well will be tax exempt because it's for charity. The house is 100% of the Vinnie St. Paul's, and they might have nothing to do with it from that perspective. And it's just me and Reventon going that extra mile. So we've currently got about in the kitty about 150,000, and I've got 2 years to raise another 350, which we'll do it no problem. And as I said, it's underwritten anyway, but yeah, it's about giving back. And as we've heard many times, and I love this saying, success doesn't build character or reveals it. It just shows who you are as a person. So I want to be super wealthy and have a massive reach because I can have more of an impact. So by doing this sort of work, by selling more properties, by helping more Australians, I could put myself in a true position of power to help.
Yeah, I love that. I take my hat off to you with the CEO sleep out. That's a massive challenge, and just doing the actual sleep out, let alone raising all that money. So well done on being second in Melbourne and top 10. Thank
you for donating as well. I know you helped as well, so thank you. I appreciate every donation we had, so I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Yeah, and I love that you're going to the next level. You're like, okay, I know I can do it with property, do that, and I'm sure it's just going to keep growing with you as your business grows, as your investments and your wealth grows. You're just going to keep giving back more and more. So I look, forward to seeing how much more you help, in the coming years. So that's awesome, Chris.
Thank you.
So yeah, we met at Mega Success in November 2019, and you captivated the room while speaking on stage with your lovely wife, Billy, and you made. You always make time for people and aim to impact them however you can. So I'm very grateful that I met you there and that we can continue our wealth creation journeys together by me being a client of your company, Reventon, as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is that right? So yeah, thank you very much for your time today, Chris. I'm sure many people have greatly benefited from your valuable wisdom.
Thank you very much, man. And thank you for having me. It was a pleasure meeting you. And I like meeting great people like yourself, and it's all about relationships and, the impact that we have. So thanks again. All the links to everything will be added, will be sent there. If you need anything that I can help with, reach out, and good luck with everything ahead, Athin.
Thanks. And just to finalize, so how can people find you and get in contact with you as well?
Well, I'll put chris@reventon.com.au.
Yep.
I'll add all the links to my book, to the charities on the bottom. So if you want to know more about that, just contact myself or my office. All my contact details will be below. And yeah, just reach out. Follow me on LinkedIn if you want. I do a lot of posts about current market conditions. Any learnings that I've had, I'm happy to share all them. And, I've had a lot of great feedback on my social media. So if you follow me there, I do a ton of posts, and I'm happy to just reach out in any way I can to assist people. But all the contents and all my thoughts, I share all of it because, as I said, 50,000 is a big number to help Australians. I've done 3,000. I can't do it alone. So I need people's help. So reach out, jump on social medias, follow me, and I'm happy to help.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks a lot, Chris. So yeah, and thank you everyone for watching and listening to this show where we talk about everything on business growth. So you can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram as Athin Cassiotis, or visit my website, athincassiotis.com. I completely agree with you, or do I? The only way you will know is if you tune in next time. Until next time, remember that our business grows when we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. Have a great day.